Alright boys and girls, I hope you're having a lovely day. Okay, today boys, I want to go through the games that I played in October. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I absolutely love Halloween, so most of the games I've been playing this month have been very spooky, let's say. I'm not sure what it is about October, but I just really get into the media side of it all. I like watching a good scary movie around Halloween time. I like playing games that are a little bit, you know, spooky and darker. I guess I kind of inherently do the same thing around Christmas time. Like last year, I played Arkham Origins, because obviously that's a Christmas game. I don't know, I like to play games that fit the mood, if that makes sense. Just for those two months in particular, December and October, I have to play Christmas and Halloween games and watch movies and shit. I don't know.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Anyway, guys, none of that shit is really important, okay, because you guys want to know what games I've been playing. Now, I'll be honest, guys, I haven't actually played that many games this month. It was more quality over quantity. A lot of my time I've been spent playing some stuff for other videos. So, for example, I've been playing a lot of Assassin's Creed lately, because I'm working on a big Assassin's Creed video. So I'm not going to be talking about any Assassin's Creed games today. I also did play the original Yakuza game, but again, I did do a video on that. So if you want to see that, you know, that video is on my channel. However, guys, I did still have time to play 4 really fun games, okay, and they're all Halloween themed except for one, and we'll start off with that one. This game is, I mean, it's quite literally the opposite of Halloween. You know, it's a very jolly game, I would say, and that is Bust a Move DS. Now, honestly, guys, this wasn't like a game I was even thinking I was going to put on games I played, because there's games that I will play, you know, and I'll fart around on for 5-10 minutes. I won't bother putting them on games I played. Like, I'm not going to tell you guys that I've been playing Miss Pac-Man, because, you know, it's just a game I might fart around on for a bit. It's not worth going into detail over, so games like that I usually don't bother. However, guys, I actually put a ridiculous amount of time into this game, like an embarrassing amount, honestly. I played this game way too freaking much for what it is. This is literally just a puzzle game where you have a colored ball and you have the stylus and you literally just aim the ball and you hit, you know, other balls and they evaporate, and that's literally the whole game. It's like a Tetris-y type thing. It's really, really, really simple, but I put hours into this game, guys. I'm actually embarrassed to admit it, like how much I did play this game. I picked it up, where did I pick this one up from? It was quite recently. It was in a CEX video. I think it was in the Torquay video. I picked it up for like £4 because I've just been enjoying my DS lately, and I thought, you know, that would be a good bit of fun. So yeah, I just one day decided to have a little go on it, and before I knew it, guys, I was fully addicted to it. I couldn't put this game down. Every time I take a shit, I started playing this game. If I went camping, I took this game with me and I played it. Like, any moment I got where I had 5 to 10 minutes spare, I would put this game in and play it. So I have put hours into this game, and it's ridiculously addictive. I imagine a lot of you guys, if you play like mobile games, you'll know the feeling these sort of puzzly games have, where you play one extra one, you're like, alright, I've played a level, let's play one more, let's keep playing a level. You just get into it for some reason. It's one of those shut your brain off games. You can just enjoy it, enjoy the vibe, enjoy the music, and yeah, it's a bit of fun, guys. It's not too crazy, it's not too deep, but it was fun. I had to throw it in because I did put hours into this game, so I had to talk about it. Alright, guys, the rest of the games, okay, are all Halloween themed again. The first one is a very, very juicy one, okay? It's one that I have already done a video on, but I didn't finish the game at that point. It was only my first impressions. And that game, of course, guys, is Silent Hill 2 Remake. I finished this entire game. I absolutely adored it from start to finish. I really, really enjoyed it, and I feel like I want to get deep on this game. So the first question I feel like I need to answer with this game, guys, is it better than the original? Now, for me, guys, it is not as good as the original, and that's not an insult to this game in any way. The original is quite literally my second favorite game of all time. The only game I like more than that is Sekiro. I absolutely adore the experience I had with the original Silent Hill 2, and I don't feel like you can replace that. It was just such a memorable experience, and me saying this game is not as good, again, doesn't mean this game is bad in any way. I absolutely loved this remake. I had such a good time with it, but for me, it's not as good as the original.
This is brilliant, but I like this.
However, I will say, guys, when it comes to gameplay, this game is definitely better than the original. In terms of actually playing it, Silent Hill 2 was actually fun with the remake, but at the same time, that's not what Silent Hill is about. You're not supposed to have fun playing a Silent Hill game. When it comes to the first 3 Silent Hill games, they scared me so much, guys. I was absolutely terrified playing them, and that was the experience. I was just completely horrified, and then I was also just blown away by the themes and the story of those games. games. When it comes to Silent Hill 2 Remake, it wasn't the same. I actually enjoyed playing the game. I wasn't really all that scared when playing it. I just had fun with it. I enjoyed it when I encounter a monster in this game because I thought, oh cool, you know, I can get my shotgun out and blast its head off, or I can beat it up with a pipe, or whatever it might be. I kind of just had fun with it. And that's not a bad thing, you know, like if you enjoy playing a game, that means it's done its job. You're supposed to enjoy games. But again, for me, when it comes to Silent Hill, that's not what the game is about. It's not about the enjoyment of it. It's about the dreadful horror of it all. But honestly, guys, the thing I like about Silent Hill 2 Remake the most is the fact that it is so different to the original. This game is not trying to be the original Silent Hill 2. I see a lot of remakes nowadays that are literally just replacements of the original with a new skin of paint, and you know, they just literally reduplicate everything from the original but just upgrade it. And I don't like remakes like that, because in my eyes, I would just go and play the original if I can. I enjoy a good remake that feels different to the original, where I can go back, play the original, and then play the remake and have two completely different experiences. And that's how Silent Hill 2 was for me. I didn't feel like I was playing Silent Hill 2. It felt like I was playing a completely new game, which I absolutely loved. It was the same thing when I was playing Resident Evil 4 Remake. Of course, there's similarities, but generally speaking, Resident Evil 4 OG and the remake are just two different games, and I can go back and play both of them and have a completely fun time with both in different ways. Those are the remakes I enjoy. I want to experience something new. I want to see something fresh, and that is what I got with Silent Hill 2 Remake. That is what I loved about it the most. It was just so different. And in terms of the story and the characters of this game, again, it was a different vibe to the original. It didn't quite play out in the same way. It did in many ways, but in many ways it was different. The core aspects of the story are pretty much unchanged. The actual story itself is very faithful to the original, but the way that the voice acting was delivered, it just made it have a different feel to it. For example, James in this game, guys, for the most part, he seemed like a pretty regular guy. He was pretty normal, honestly. He didn't seem like very insane, except for small glimpses of insanity. In the original, his voice acting is so uncanny that you just immediately know something is not quite right with James. He's off, you know? Whereas in the original, his voice acting is, again, he just seems like a regular guy. You don't really suspect anything too bad about him, you know, unless you played the original. Obviously, you kind of know that something's off with him. But yeah, if you'd never played the original, you wouldn't really know it necessarily. You'd have to at least do a bit of digging. A lot of the conversations that James has in this game, he comes off as the normal one, whereas the other people are a lot more insane. Like when he's talking to Eddie, Eddie is unhinged in this game. There's no doubt about it. When he's talking to Angela, Angela is not right. Whereas in this game, I feel like James didn't feel like that. He didn't feel off. Whereas in the original, he definitely did. You know, he felt just as uncanny as Angela and Eddie.
What's going on with you? What are you talking about? You sound insane.
But honestly, guys, I don't think that was by accident. I almost feel like they did that on purpose. I feel like they wanted James almost on a thin line of insanity. Eddie and Angela were all the way over in the insane area. Those guys had completely gone. Whereas I feel like James was somewhere in the middle, and I think that was on purpose. Silent Hill hadn't quite gotten to his psyche the way that it had with Angela and Eddie. Those two were unhinged, you know, they were beyond saving. Whereas James is still, you know, he could still come this way. And then by the end of the game, where James ends up confronting the Pyramid Heads and Maria, I feel like he'd come this way more. He could have gone that way, but he's gone this way. I feel like I've explained this really poorly, but that was my interpretation of the voice acting here. I also did like the way they fleshed out certain characters just a little bit more in the remake, like Angela in particular. I felt had a bit more screen time in the remake than the original. And speaking of Angela, guys, the Abstract Daddy boss fight is probably one of my favorite boss fights ever. I like that fight in the original. It feels appropriate, it feels right, especially with the fixed camera angles, but the way they did it in the remake was so good. You're in these like really tight hallways and you feel so claustrophobic, and you just feel like you've got no room to breathe. The Abstract Daddy's right on your tail, and I imagine Angela felt the same way, you know, with her dad. Throughout the fight, you're in this house, and this entire house is being torn apart as you're playing, and obviously that's a representation of how Angela feels. You also see this wardrobe with like a teddy bear in there. It's a tiny little wardrobe, but I imagine Angela would hide in there from her dad. You end up hearing this really aggressive voice at one point, which again must be Angela's dad. And also the fight just goes on and on and on. It just never ends. And I feel like, again, it was the perfect representation of how Angela felt. It was a really amazing character building boss fight. I love a boss fight that can tell a good story. Like one of my favorite boss fights of all time is the end in Metal Gear Solid 3, because it just tells such a brilliant story. And I feel like they did such such a good job with the Abstract Daddy in this game. I felt like there was a perfect boss fight. It was my favorite boss fight in the whole game. However, guys, one boss fight I wasn't a huge fan of in the remake version was the Eddie boss fight, more because it just didn't really quite fit in the remake like it did in the original. In the original, just everything feels so dream-like. Nothing feels real in the original. Like, literally every moment of that game, you wonder what's real and what isn't. Whereas in the remake, I felt there was an element of realism to it. And the game is certainly not as uncanny as the original. The original has such uncanny dialogue at times, and it's just really, I don't know, it really got under my skin the way it felt so unnatural. Literally, as I'm speaking, I'm literally thinking in my head about Maria in that prison scene, and the way she just stares, not at James, it feels like she's staring at me. You know, it just feels, you know, it's that's how it feels playing the original, whereas it did not feel like that with the remake, by intention, I imagine. Which is why I didn't really love the Eddie fight in this game, because again, I felt like there was a bit more realism and groundedness to the remake, and in the Eddie fight in the remake, he just takes so many bullets that it's like, it feels off. It doesn't feel off in the original because everything feels off in the original, whereas in the remake, again, because it's a bit more grounded, shooting Eddie 5 million times feels weird. It's like, how is this human guy? Because he's not a monster, you know, it's not a figment of James's imagination. This is a real person. How is he taking so many bullets? I didn't think like that with the original because, again, everything in that game doesn't feel normal. Everything in that game feels weird. But yeah, I just didn't really love the fight in this game because it just didn't really make a lot of sense to me. Anyway, guys, I'm rambling on at this point, okay? I feel like I've talked enough about this game in general. I absolutely loved it from start to finish, especially in the gameplay department, and I just loved how different it felt. I thought this was an absolutely amazing remake, and I thoroughly recommend it. I would really love it if Bloober Team would make more Silent Hill games. I think they did such a great job with this one. I've seen a lot of people saying bring in Silent Hill 3 remake. That doesn't really make a lot of sense because 3 is a sequel to 1. They would have to remake 1, I would imagine, first. But honestly, guys, like, after playing this game, I want them to do a new game. I want them to make their own Silent Hill game. I want to see something completely fresh and new. I feel like they could do it. And they did so many cool new things with Silent Hill 2 remake. I would love them to just come up with their own ideas and just do their own thing. So I feel like we could trust them with that. That's what I would like them to do personally. But if they do Silent Hill 1 remake, I will certainly be there. Alright, guys, moving on. Okay, our next game is going to be Luigi's Mansion 3. Alright, guys, so I'll be honest, I've had this game in my collection for absolutely ages, and I just haven't gotten around to playing it, but I felt like it being October, it being Halloween, was the perfect time to finally play this one. I played through Luigi's Mansion 1 and 2. I adored both of them. They were great, especially the first one. The first one just has such a brilliant atmosphere. I wouldn't call it scary because it's Luigi's Mansion, but it definitely has a bit of creepiness to it, and if you played that game as a kid, I imagine it would have scared you a bit. Luigi's Mansion 2 was definitely not as scary as the original. It didn't have quite the same atmosphere, a bit more puzzly and a bit longer, so I did like Luigi's Mansion 2, but for me, I do prefer the original. Luigi's Mansion 3 is a bit more like Luigi's Mansion 2, but it's just better in almost every way. Like, this to me is now my favorite Luigi's Mansion game because it's just such a brilliant game. So what makes this game so good, guys? Okay, well, let's start off with Luigi, okay, which is basically a duplicate clone of Luigi, but he's gooey. Awesome. Just an awesome idea for a thing. A lot of puzzles revolve around you using Luigi, and it's just such a great way to do some of the puzzles, and it was just cool, like having a duplicate Luigi as a goo figure. I don't know, I just really enjoyed that aspect of the game. As well, guys, I don't want to sound too sus, but I just enjoy sucking things in this game. That sounded really sus.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Game!
Yeah, there's just something so satisfying about getting that damn Hoover thing and just sucking like curtains and all sorts of shit, and coins will bounce out. There's something about doing that is really fun to me for some reason. It's just cathartic. This game has some absolutely phenomenal levels. The way it works basically is each level you will have to fight like a boss, and once you fight the boss, you'll unlock a new like button on the elevator door. So as you're playing the game, you basically just unlock tons of elevator floors. So each floor is like something new. And they just made so many awesome and cool little levels. Like, each level just felt so different and original and unique. My favorite had to be this like magic level where everything was all magic related. Like, one thing that really stood out to me for some weird reason in that level was like it's like one of those like coffins with the saw in it, you know, like they got magic shows, and I don't know what it is, but you can suck the thing back and forth, like you suck, blow, and it saws the tape. I don't know. It was just cool to me. I don't know how to describe it, but I'm hopefully showing you some gameplay and and it was cool to me. I don't know why. This game also had some fantastic bosses. Like, that is a lot of this game, is the boss battles. There's a really cool piano boss where this piano just chases you. Such an awesome boss. I freaking loved it. And overall, guys, it was just one of those games I couldn't put down as soon as I started playing. Like, it had a bit of a slow start, I will admit, but like after the first hour of the game, I was in, okay, and I couldn't put this game down. I just played it from start to finish, and I just adored it. I would really love it if they would do a Luigi's Mansion 4 soon. If they did a Luigi's Mansion 4 for the release of the Switch 2, I would be there day one, no doubt. I absolutely love the Luigi's Mansion games, and Luigi's Mansion 3 was borderline perfect to me. If I had one criticism with this game, and it is just one small little criticism, didn't really love the Joy-Cons when it came to aiming in this game. It just felt really shit in this game. Like, aiming the right joystick. I don't know if my Switch is just not that good. I've got a regular Switch, I haven't got the OLED one. But yeah, just aiming just felt really shit to me. I don't know. Something about aiming with the Joy-Cons that can be hit and miss for me, and it felt really weird when moving it. It didn't feel like it had a good aim, if that makes sense. And there's certain parts of the game where you will need a good aim. Like, for example, the final boss when you're fighting King Boo. You have to like suck these fireballs and then ping them back at various King Boos, because there's like duplicate versions. You have to be really quick, because otherwise the time runs out and shit. So that shit was kind of annoying to me, because again, the Joy-Cons just weren't that good.
I feel like somebody stuck a big club up my ass, and it hurts. I've got to figure out a way to get it out of there.
I play all of my Switch games in handheld mode. If I had the Pro Controller on me, I probably would have used that. It would have been better. But yeah, that was my only one criticism with the game. A small one, but I felt like it needed to be mentioned. But yeah, overall, boys, Luigi's Mansion 3, the perfect game to play in October. And I can't believe I left it so long. I literally bought this game with my Nintendo Switch. Like, I've had it that long. I've had this game for years, and I just haven't gotten around to playing it. But it felt right to play it now, and I'm so glad I did. Alright, guys, my final game I wanted to talk about is gonna be Resident Evil, the original, or at least the remake of the original. Alright, guys, so speaking of games I've had for ages, I've had this game for freaking, like, God knows how long, years and years and years I've had this game, and I've been putting it off for some reason. I don't know why. I think because the original Resident Evil just has a big reputation for being super difficult. I've played through the original Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 quite recently. I played Resident Evil 2 earlier this year, and I played Resident Evil 3 right at the end of last year. I think it was like November time, and those games weren't really all that hard. They were quite, I wouldn't say easy, but they were definitely doable. I didn't really struggle with those games, and I honestly had a complete blast. But the original has a bit of a different reputation. This game is known as one of the hardest Resident Evil games, but I wanted to play this because, one, it's Halloween, Resident Evil, they go hand in hand, but also I do want to pick up the original Resident Evil, like the PS1 version, but I felt like I had to play this first. I've had this PS4 Origins collection for ages. It comes with Resident Evil 1 Remake and Resident Evil 0. I'm not too interested in Resident Evil 0, at least right now, but yeah, I've had this for ages thinking, yeah, I'm going to play the original Resident Evil on here. So I thought, you know what, if I play through the remake on the PS4 in October, come November, I'm going to London Gaming Market, I can pick up the original and we'll play that at some point. That was my thinking. So yeah, I hop into Resident Evil, guys, and honestly, didn't really love it at the beginning. I was really struggling. It was definitely pretty tough. Like, people warned me, and I still did struggle. The first few hours of the original Resident Evil, you don't have a lot of guns, there's not a lot of ammo about, the puzzles are pretty tough, and Spencer Mansion is quite hard to explore because you don't really know where to go, and it's quite easy to get lost. It just starts off really challenging. It's definitely not easy at the beginning, but as you play through the game, you start finding a few more guns. The resources become a little bit more frequent. You just find a bit more here and there, and you just play through more and more of the game, and it just gets easier and easier. Not to mention the fact that when you've explored lots of Spencer Mansion, it becomes easier to explore it because you kind of get a feel for the mansion. You know which rooms you've been in, and you know which rooms don't need exploring anymore. It's one of those games that you play the first 2-3 hours of it, and it's pretty tough, but as you get more and more into the game, it becomes a lot easier. And by the end of it, I really didn't think it was as hard as I thought it would be. But with that said though, guys, the first few hours were pretty freaking tough. I mean, literally when I was playing it, I played it for about 30 odd minutes, and I was being really stingy with the ink ribbons, because I always start off Resident Evil like that. I'm super stingy with those ink ribbons. By the the end of the game, you've got freaking loads of them, and you're like, why was I so damn stingy? But yeah, I was being super stingy, guys, and of course, after about 30 to 40 minutes of progress, I freaking died, and I was like, really? And there's certain puzzle rooms that can kill you, especially early on. Those were really frustrating, and also, like, in general, you can just die from the enemies because your pistol is pretty crap, honestly. The pistol just doesn't do a lot of damage, and also as well, like, because the ammo is so scarce for it in the early hours, you don't want to waste it too much, so you might just shoot a couple of zombies and try and run past them, and then they'll get you. You don't want to waste ammo. Not to mention the fact as well, this game has these things called Crimson Heads, which is basically where the zombies die, and then they've been dead for a while, and then they come back faster, stronger, more powerful. Oh my god, they frustrated me in the early hours, guys, let me just say, because I didn't have the ammo, I didn't have the health, and they would scare me too. Like, I was genuinely terrified every time one would pop up.
Fear is just something in your mind. If you don't let fear conquer you, you won't be scared. Right. Fear is a choice.
In terms of dealing with them, guys, when you kill a zombie, you're supposed to set their bodies on fire. I'll be honest, I didn't really do that too often because I just couldn't be bothered. I probably should have done, but yeah, I just couldn't be asked. And the trouble is you have to have the lighter and the fuel for it, which takes up 2 inventory slots. I just didn't really want to have it on me. Inventory space and inventory management is a big part of the original Resident Evil because you've only got the 8 inventory slots, so you have to be careful what you've got on you at all times, because otherwise you got to keep going back to the, you got to backtrack and put stuff back in the storage box. That shit can get annoying, so I didn't really want to have the lighter and the lighter fluid with me. But as you go through the game, guys, you end up getting a shotgun, you get a magnum, you get a grenade launcher, so these zombies don't become too much of a problem later on in the game because you've got so much ammo and so many guns that you can just deal with them. So yeah, when it comes to Resident Evil 1, guys, I really enjoyed it. Did I like it as much as Resident Evil 2 and 3, the originals? No, definitely not. Those games have got a bit more emphasis on the action, which I definitely love, especially in Resident Evil 3. That game is straight up an action game and I loved it for it, but it doesn't mean I didn't enjoy Resident Evil 1. I thought it was a great horror experience. Like, it was probably the scariest Resident Evil game I've played. Like, I was genuinely scared to play it in the early hours. There's definitely a more emphasis on puzzles, and there are some pretty tough puzzles in this game. There's some easy ones too, but there are some tougher ones, and yeah, I just really enjoyed it, guys. It was a really fun game, and it was one of those ones where the more I played it, the more I loved it. So yeah, that is all the games I played in October, guys. Like I said, it was quality over quantity. We only played 4 games, but we did play 4 absolute bangers. But yeah, let me know in the comments, guys, what are some games you played in the month of October? Did you play some scary games? Did you play some other shit? Let me know in the comments. Other than that though, boys and girls, subscribe here if you're new, and I'll see you guys in the next one, alright? Peace.